Not every dawn is born light. There are days when the sun shines outside, but inside us everything looks dark, dense, heavy. Perhaps you are starting this day with a tight chest, feeling like fighting alone against the world judgments of people, situations that escape your control, thoughts that try to paralyze you, and the worst, that inner voice that whispers that neither will God take you out of this. But I want to start by telling you something. With all the spiritual authority I carry, this message came to you for an eternal purpose. And no matter what you are facing, the sky is still looking at you. Today we will dive into a psalm that was not born in the comfort of a throne, but in the midst of chaos. Psalm 3. He is not just a sacred text. It is a desperate cry of a torn, wounded, tired, but still knew where to find help. David, the author, was surrounded by enemies, betrayed by his own son, humiliated by those who once applauded him. And yet he found the strength to pray, trust, rest, and see God get up for him. This journey goes beyond words. She is spiritual. Stay with me to the end, because in the end, we will have a prayer that can break barriers in your life, a prayer that will cross the heavens and touch your soul. And if you are not already subscribed here on the channel, enjoy and subscribe now. Not just to follow the next videos, but because you are part of a generation that God is awakening. So open the heart. Because today, God will talk to you. Lord, as if my opponents have multiplied, there are many who get up against me. These were David's first words in writing Psalm 3. He does not mask the pain. It doesn't try to look strong when you are shattered. It does not hide behind beautiful speeches. He exposes chaos with sincerity. And perhaps today, you are also living this kind of reality where battles multiply, the forces diminish, and the contrary voices seem higher than your faith. David was betrayed by someone in his own home. His own son, Absalom, rose to take the throne. The people who previously followed him now abandon him. The crowd that applauded him now throws stones, not with his hands, but with words, looks, judgments. And his soul, wounded, feels like everything is ruined. But here is one of the greatest spiritual secrets of this psalm. Even in the face of rejection and humiliation, David writes, he doesn't shut up. He transforms pain into prayer, transforms tears into cry, transforms persecution into intimacy with God. And this is powerful, because the world can take everything from you: position, applause, support, but if you still have a pen and soul and faith in the heart, heaven can still rewrite its story. The words of verse 2 are heavy as rocks. Many say of my soul, there is no salvation to him in God. Have you heard that? Does that feeling that even people of faith doubts your victory? Those moments when even your mind begins to believe that there is no way? What God silent? What is over? But Psalm 3 does not end in verse 2. Crying can last one night, but David's cry leads us to a new dawn. This is where the turn begins. Even with everything collapsing, David writes, but you, Lord, are a shield to me, my glory, and what exalts my head. This statement does not come from someone who is in victory, but from someone being hunted. David is not protected by walls, soldiers, or riches. He is hiding in caves, running away, alone. But even so, he declares, you are my shield. And here is something that transforms spiritual understanding. He does not say that God has a shield. He says God is the shield. It changes everything, because a shield as an object can be lost, forgotten, even destroyed. But when God himself is the shield, you do not depend on circumstances, place, or who is with you. You are stored by a non-failure presence. Can you imagine the strength of it? An exhausted man, without allies, with a torn heart, saying, I know who surrounds me. I know who protects me. And it's not the army, it's not politics, it's not fame. It's the Lord. And that's not just beautiful. This is real. Because perhaps today you are feeling just like this: exposed, vulnerable, abandoned, but there is an invisible shield involving you, made from God's own presence. And more, he says that the Lord is my glory. How can a humiliated man say that? Because the glory of David is not in the circumstances. It is in your identity with God. The throne may have been taken, the crown may have fallen, friends may have gone, but the glory that comes from heaven no one takes away. This is the glory that the world does not understand. It does not shine in the eyes of others, but it burns in the heart of who knows who it is in God. David continues, "And what exalts my head?" This is not just poetry, it is healing. It is as if he is saying, even with everything pulling me to the ground, God remains the one who gets me up. And here it is not just a mood. It is restored dignity, rescued value, reaffirmed identity. How many times does life try to make us walk our heads down? Words that hurt, looks they judge, failures that scream, the shame trying to dictate who we are. But David teaches us something powerful. When everything says you fell, God says raises your head. Son. He doesn't get up to feed pride, but to remember who you are in it. Imagine this gesture: a father finding his head downhill, in tears, thinking he failed. And tenderly, his father lifts his son's chin and says, "Look at me. I'm still here. I'm still your father." This is what David experienced, and this is what God is doing with you now. He is touching inside and saying, "Get up. I still see you. I still chose you." It is in this kind of raising that faith is established. A faith that does not need anyone's approval. A faith that does not need the pat on the back of the crowd. A faith that is sustained only with the Father's voice saying, "You still have value." And that doesn't depend on external victories, but an internal conviction: God is still with me. David shows us that it is possible to be lying in the eyes of the world and yet walk his head up before the sky. For the glory of man is not how the world sees him, but in how God sustains him. In the midst of war, surrounded by betrayal, without soldiers, without throne, without shelter, David now. And it doesn't pray in silence. He says, "With my voice I cry to the Lord, and heard me from his holy mountain." He did not whisper. He shouted with his soul. Because there are times when pain is so deep that you can't pray with beautiful words, just with truth. You may be in this phase too, where prayer does not come as poetry, but as moan, where you cannot assemble phrases, but the heart is screaming inside, "God, hear me." And let me tell you with conviction, he hears, not for pity, but by alliance. God does not respond to appearance. God responds true. David was dirty, tired, rejected, crying. But he was heard. This is too strong, because many think they need to be well to pray, who need to be all right for God to answer. But Psalm 3 shows that God responds when the soul is sincere, even if it is wounded, broken, shattered. David's clamor tears the sky and changes the atmosphere. He is surrounded by enemies and still can rest. This is not just biology, this is a miracle. He says, "I lay down and slept, I woke up, because the Lord sustained me." This is faith that rests, faith that delivers, faith that says, "God, I did what I could. Now I surrender to your care." Sleeping in the midst of persecution is not weakness, it is extreme confidence. And maybe that's what you need today. Do not run, not fight with the strength of the arm, but cry and rest. Because the same God who hears the cry, sustains the body, calms the spirit, and keeps the soul. Sleeping in times of war is more than a physical act, it is a spiritual statement. It's like David said, "I know I'm in danger, but I know even more who keeps me." And that teaches us something precious. Faith is not the absence of struggle. Faith is resting in the midst of it. There are people who think faith is agitation. That is running, screaming, doing 1,000 prayers per minute. But in this psalm, we learn that faith is also knowing how to stop. Silence. Close your eyes and trust that God is in control even when you do not see the solution. Faith is to deliver and sleep with a heart in peace. And the most beautiful David wakes up. Wake up in the midst of war. Wakes up without human guarantees, but wakes up sustained. Because when we really cry, God not only changes what is around us, He changes what is within us. The scenario may remain hostile, but the spirit gains strength. The soul finds rest. The body recovers vigor. The mind silence. This is the effect of a sincere cry. It's not magic. It is a miracle. It is God putting your hand over your life and saying, "You will wake up. You will continue. You will win." And no matter how many dark nights come, those who rest in God's support always dawn. David's faith is not theoretical. It is lived in the valley. It is this faith that transforms caves into refuges, that transforms the escape into journey, that transforms tear into testimony, that turns the night into a dawn of hope. And it is this same faith that God wants to rekindle in you today. The psalm comes to a point where prayer turns into war cry. David declares, "Get up, Lord." He is not just asking, he is calling the sky to act. Because there are times in life when the soul feels that God is looking, but the heart begs, "Not only do you see, God." This get up is not arrogance. It is desperate faith. It is courage in the midst of fear. It is the prayer of those who have cried, has already trusted, but now it comes to that point that only the act of heaven can break what is locked. It is the soul shouting, "God, enter this story." And maybe that's exactly what you need to say today. Get up, sir. Enter my fight. Take your place. David is not expecting a peace agreement with his enemies. He knows that there are wars that only heaven can win. There are pains that only heaven understands. There are wounds that only heaven can heal. That is why he cries with authority, because those who have a covenant with God do not ask as a beggar, ask as a son. And the Father listens. And then he uses a strong, almost shocking language. "He hurt all my enemies in the complaints, you broke the teeth of the wicked." This is not a desire for violence. It is spiritual language. It is as if he said, "Lord, shut up the accusation." Breaks the strength of the enemy. Take the poison out of the lie that tries to devour me. Because it is often not the physical blows that destroy us, but the invisible words. Criticism, humiliation, judgment, betrayal, silence that accuses, but when God gets up, he shuts up the voices of hell with one's own glory. It breaks the enemy's tools with a simple gesture. And when he acts, there is no doubt the sky is in the cause. David is talking about war, but not swords. It's talking about voices. He knows how much the human soul can be crushed by invisible words. For criticism that echo, by memories that hurt, on accusations that were not said aloud, but which live in the mind. That is why he cries out, "Lord, break the teeth of the wicked." This metaphor is powerful. The teeth represent what bites, that hurts, that devours. When God breaks the enemy's teeth, he is saying, it is over. The accusation has lost strength. The poison has lost effect. The shame has lost control. This is spiritual justice. It is heaven to go into action to silence everything that hurt you. How many times has a criticism paralyzed us? A malicious comment has caught us. Did a look of contempt question our value? How many times have we shut up, but inside we bleed? The shame is silent, but deadly. And that's why David cries out with such intensity. He's not asking for revenge, he's asking for a cure. And God responds with authority. It does not come with flowers, but with fire. It does not come with pats on the back, but with power to break the invisible. He shuts up the accuser. He undoes the lie. He overthrows the arguments that hell tried to plant in your soul. And when he does that, what was wounded becomes a testimony. What was humiliation becomes a bridge to honor. What was a voice of accusation becomes silent in the face of presence. What was shadow dissipates in the light. Because God not only hears the cry, he acts for love. And when he gets up, hell is silent. When he extends his hand, everything he tried to knock you down loses power. Maybe you know exactly what this is. Heard words that cannot forget. He suffered criticism that made you doubt who you are. It was betrayed by those who said to love you. He was judged by people who never knew his pain. And even trying to move on, something still hurts. A memory, a sentence, a gesture, small things in the eyes of others, but they open deep wounds on you. But listen carefully when God enters the battle. He does not come just to comfort you, he comes to restore you completely. He breaks the teeth of the lie. He shuts the roar of shame. He silences the scream of fear. He invades the confused mind with peace that exceeds all understanding. Because he doesn't just want to get you out of pain, he wants to show that you have never been what they said, you have always been what he planned. David went through this. People looked at him and said, "There is no more salvation to God in God." But David answered with faith, crying, tears, and with the certainty that the Lord was still his shield, his glory, and the one who raises his head. And perhaps today, this answer is being born inside your heart too. You don't need great speeches. Need a breath of a soft memory that God is still with you. And when he gets up, the shame does not remain. Fear does not dominate. The pain does not win. What was despair becomes an altar. What was fall becomes rebirth. Because the last word does not come from man, comes from heaven. And then David writes one of the strongest phrases of the whole psalm: salvation comes from the Lord. It is not a loose phrase. It is a cry of faith, an eternal sentence, a conviction that crosses generations. Salvation does not come from shortcuts. It does not come from human connections, manipulation, earthly strategies. It comes from above. This salvation is not purchased. It is not achieved with performance. It does not depend on your history, nor on your mistakes. It comes from the throne. It comes from a God who sees everything, knows everything, and yet loves you with intensity. It comes from a place where there is no confusion, where time is not delay, but preparation, where silence is not absence, but invisible action. The salvation of the Lord is not an escape route. She is a rescue with identity. When God saves, he not only takes out of the hole, he replaces it in purpose. He restores dignity, renews his mind, heals wounds, and strengthens the tired knees. Because God's rescue is not just to get rid of yesterday, but to lead you to tomorrow that he himself wrote. And David concludes by saying, "About your people, be your blessing." This is noble. He doesn't want victory just for himself. He understands that what God does in our lives has the power to overflow over others. He prays that his blessing will reach the people. He wants his cry to impact many. Because the blessing of truth is not retained, it shares itself. And maybe that's what God wants to do to you. Getting you up so that others see. Restore you so that others are inspired. Heal you so that others are touched. Because when God moves into one, he transforms many. If this word is coming to you today, it is no coincidence. Perhaps your soul is exhausted, carrying heavy memories, trying to stay up while everything around says it is over. Perhaps you are feeling crushed by harsh words, broken promises, absences that hurt more than hostile presences. And in this inner silence that only you know, God is listening to your cry. And it is exactly in this place, in the deep pain, that David teaches us to pray for real. Not a rehearsed prayer, but a scream of the soul. A cry that cuts the heavens and touches the heart of the Father. Not because it is beautiful, but because it is sincere. And today, I want to pray with you like that. With faith, with truth, with purpose. Get up, Lord, against everything that rose against this life. Against the accusations that echo day and night as thunder. Against the words that hurt more than fists. Against the eyes they judged without knowing the story. Against the memories that insist on bringing weight to the past. Get up, Lord, and surround this life with your shield, not an iron shield that rusts, not a wood that breaks, but the living shield of your presence. It involves it with your glory instead of humiliation, that when men say it's over, the sky declares, I'm starting something new. May your light shine when the doors close. May your hand open windows in the invisible, that where there is tiredness, come strength. Where there is silence, come your voice. Where the soul is without cry, come your breath to rekindle faith. Because if she thought there was no more salvation, today heaven is saying salvation comes from the Lord. Lord, that she sleeps in peace even if the war is still happening. May she find rest, even if the answer has not yet arrived. May it take a deep breath even if the world is still screaming. Because there is a heavenly army around it. Because the Lord watches over those who trust. May she wake up sustained not by human promises, but by your hand that never releases. By the hand that has already written her future before the world exists. May the teeth of lies be broken, that every damn word that tried to hurt its identity totally lose power. May each unfair criticism dissolve, that each comparison that crushed it is canceled. May every cursed transvestite with advice be unmasked by your spirit. May the enemy's roar shut up. May the cry of darkness be silenced by your glory. May the echo of fear be replaced by your soft voice, saying, I am with you. I support you. I chose you. May your blessing be upon her, Lord. About the house, the ways, the decisions, the projects, the relationships, the dreams. May your blessing be like a perfume that invades the environment, which marks, that does not go out. May it be like oil that goes down from head to heart, as a light that breaks the darkness, as a promise that does not fail. Do it again, sir. Do what you only know how to do. It takes the dust and transforms into a vessel of honor. It takes shame and makes her testimony. Take the desert and make river born. Take this tired soul and make it a living altar of your glory. Lord, it does once again. Your way, with your time, with your wisdom. Although the logic says that there is no solution anymore, even though doctors have said end, even if the ties have been broken, even if the soul is withered to fight, it does once again. Because there is still a believing people. There are still knees that fold, hands that rise, lives that call you a father. There are still hearts burning, waiting for a word, an answer, a touch of you. There is still faith even wounded, even small, but live. And this faith, Lord, is what moves mountains, breaks chains, restores destinations. We are not here by chance. Every tear that fell on the pillow was recorded in the sky. Every silence that no one understood was perceived by you. And every muttered prayer between sobs came like incense to your throne. Therefore, Father, today we love you even without understanding everything, even with pain still open, because the Lord does not change. The Lord does not fail. Your salvation does not delay. She doesn't miss the address. It comes in the right time, in the most unexpected way. And when it arrives, it transforms. Plays where no one else plays, heals what no one else sees. Your salvation finds us at the bottom of the valley and takes us back to the hill. It takes us out of the pit and puts us in the way again. So today, even before the answer, we glorify you. Because we don't have to see to believe. We just need to remember that you are. Today we are not just listening to a psalm, we are being plunged into it. This cry is not old. He is current. He echoes in your soul now. It is as if the Holy Spirit himself is whispering to your heart, I still support. I still answer. I still save. And if everything seems dark around, remember Psalm 3 doesn't end in chaos. He ends with hope, ends with glory, ends with restoration. Because when heaven enters history, no word of hell remains standing. David, humiliated, tired, betrayed, ends up praying for others. This teaches us something deep when we are touched by God truly. We stop looking only at our pain, and we begin to intercede by those who have not yet found this refuge. Because the blessing of truth is not selfish, it overflows. And maybe that's your new season. You who were crushed by words, rejected by those who should love you, forgotten at times when you needed it, is being raised to bless others. What you went through was not in vain. It was furnace. It was preparation. It was a process. But now it is the time to be a living testimony that the God of David is still rising by those who cry. So even if you still donate, even if the answer has not arrived, love. Because those who love before the miracle already carry the miracle within you. If this word has found your heart, it is because heaven is calling you back to the center of faith. You may have arrived here tired, in pieces, wondering if there was still hope. But now, something has changed. You realize that there is still a shield about your life. There is still glory over your head. There is still a God who gets up to you. This is not just a video. It is a sign, a reminder of the sky that you are not forgotten. The battle did not annul the purpose. Silence did not cancel the promise. The pain did not destroy its identity. On the contrary, all this prepared you to live a new time. And if this message touched your soul, I invite you to continue this walk with us. Each word released here is an extension of what heaven wishes to shed over your life. Here you will find more than videos, you will find direction, healing, and renewal. So stay with us. Join this community that prays, believes, cries, and resists. Subscribe, not just for habit, but for purpose. Because God is awakening you, and everything He started He will complete.